This is a video reply for Loving God Wins, Loving Goddess Energy 777. Alright, so you brought up a name, a very pivotal name, because they didn't understand, or they should have understood exactly what they were doing, but they don't understand exactly how bad they were fucking up when they did it. Alright? So, when I was 15, alright? So, I'm 36 now. So, 15. Go ahead and add another 15. That's 30. Alright? And then go ahead and add 6 more. So that's 21 years. Alright? So, 21 years ago. Alright? I was in a alternative learning facility. Alright? Now, a relationship that basically I got pushed into in high school. Alright? Now imagine, you're asking, how can you get pushed into a relationship? Well, I had liked somebody, and the person that I had liked had basically tried forcing a connection between me and their friend. Now, keep in mind, the individual themselves, as a friend, should have been just friends. No problem at all. Alright? But now, circumstance that I'm dealing with, that very point in time, I'm being transitioned out of a foster home. Alright? I'm being quite literally, yanked out early from a foster home that I was put in because of this whole family court situation that was going on. Alright? Where I had, for the same thing that they wanted to put me in that foster home and keep me in there for, I had already, paid my debt to society by doing probation, and it actually adhered to the rules of probation. Alright? So this is teenage years. Well, the person that I was kind of pushed into, hey, see how, y'all end up going ahead and connecting. Keep in mind, that individual, we had attended the same junior high. Alright? The only people that had knew that was me and that individual. Alright? Well, that individual's father ends up going ahead in a situation that I had no involvement with, ends up trying to push his weight a little bit. Alright? Now keep in mind, this individual was in the career bracket of law enforcement. Alright? I believe worked for the Greenport Police Department. Alright. I literally, they did not work at the police department of which they resided jurisdictionally. As, their home. But this individual's daughter then goes and, I guess pretty much invited herself over. Now keep in mind, at the time that that's going on, there is no adult supervision. Alright? I quite literally had clarified the factor. Yeah, nobody in my family is here. My mom's at a wedding right now. And his exact response, which if we had to go ahead in front of testifying in front of an entire, courtroom, the exact words that would end up being the cross-examination point for him was, after being notified of the lack of adult supervision and the non-willingness to go along with, breaching that rule, he ends up saying, well, I used all this gas to get here. Y'all might as well go ahead and hang out for a while anyway. That right there. That response right there. Alright? Technically, the funny thing is, at that point, if I would have known, I very well could have been like, listen, this is not happening. This is a recipe for disaster. I'm not okay with this. And I don't want you to think that I'm, usurping your authority. But this is not an okay situation. You're not going to get what you want in this situation. And I could have called the cops for trespassing should he have not been willing to leave. Like, as far as him and his daughter. Alright? If I would have known that was an option at that point in time, that is the way that would have played out. Quite literally, the amount of problems that have stemmed off from that one situation that happened off of school grounds, alright, ended up causing years of scandal, ended up going ahead and causing just an entire chain of events, domino-wise, that would end up leading to me ending up in a fucking coma in my mid-20s, or early to mid-20s, that range. Alright? Quite literally, direct effect. Like, that situation ended up being so much of a scandal that quite literally it ended up going ahead and inspiring that whole dynamic between Carl and the cop in the U.S. iteration of Shameless. Like, quite literally, the juvenile record ended up being direct source that ended up being the inspiring factor for that, that team of writers. Alright? The one where, ultimately the daughter didn't want to listen to the dad, so Carl, he invited Carl shooting at the shooting range, and then, and the dad ends up going ahead and showing the fact that the daughter's sleeping around with some dude in college, and she ended up getting gonorrhea. Well, I'm just saying. Ultimately, there's been some attention that has gotten on to that exact situation and how that situation would have been avoided should, it had been respected of a boundary put in place. Even if it was not my boundary, still a boundary set in place that could have prevented a nightmarish situation. Alright? And if you actually needed to know about my character, especially at that point in time, you should have ended up thinking to yourself, wait, did a teenage boy that I just invited to spend time alone with my daughter openly admit that there is no adult supervision of the situation, that they would be left to their own devices completely unchecked? That should have told you everything you needed to know. Alright? Even if that did not make sense to you, of why would they have done that? The answer that your daughter didn't know, and that you didn't know in the situation, was I had literally just gotten yanked out of a fucking group home. What I was hoping would be the last group home that I would ever have to fucking deal with. Alright? And quite literally, here, trouble knocks on my fucking doorstep. Alright? All this because of the factor that, ultimately, you would think, somebody's judgment that would be in law enforcement would be that in tune to be able to pick up on nuance. Alright? Be able to read between the lines. But the thought, quite literally the fucking thought of, wait, I just invited my daughter, my teenage daughter, to go ahead and be left alone, unsupervised, with this teenage boy, while he is going ahead and clarifying there is no supervision. He's trying to say this could be a bad situation, especially optically, in every which way that it looks. Because the one person that is actually the adult in the situation is clearly not being able to read the factor that the culpability will fall on him as an adult, being the adult in the room. When the adult in the room's response is, well, you use all this gas to be able to get here, you might as well just hang out for a little while. I want you to think how, on cross-examination, if the suspicious long-term pattern of abuse of power and, harassment from law enforcement ends up tying to specific events that Ronald Green set into motion, let's talk about it. Because I'm going to go ahead and talk about an oppression of civil liberties lawsuit that, let's be real, that, coma kind of solidified.